Hey, there's a chick on my app.
All right, I'm just saying women aren't meant to fight. They have tiny, hollow bones.
Don't you think you're doing a lot of genderizing?
What?
Don't be a pussy. Join Cobra Kai.
I was a natural cobra.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Queen Cobra podcast. I'm really excited to be back and be here with you. I know it's been a little bit, but I'm back and I'm better than ever, if I do say so myself. And I'm really excited to announce the start to a little bit of a mini series that I'll be doing, which is character analysis. And today we are going to be focusing on my personal favorite character. That's Eli Hawk Moskowitz. However you decide to name him, however you see him, Eli Hawk, whatever you want to call him, whoever he's becoming. There's just a lot to dive into with his character. And another part of the series that I'll be doing is bringing on guest hosts to come in, people who I consider to be experts on each character, who, have their fair share of knowledge on the character. Obviously not real experts, but close enough in my mind. Huge fans of the show, huge fans of the character, and each different character that we take a look at, I'm going to be bringing somebody different in to help give an extra bit of insight, to add another pair of eyes and another brain to the situation. And just, I think that two heads are better than one. And it's not so easy to sit up here by myself and tell you exactly who Hawk is, but it's nice that I could have a conversation about it with somebody who knows him better than I do, who has, taken a lot more time to analyze each little scene that he has and really just enlighten me to some things that I might be missing, or you might be missing, or whatever it is. I truly think that in these types of situations, it's better to have an additional person giving their opinion. So I will be having a guest host for each different character. And on that note, I'm really excited about my first guest host. I wonder if you can guess who she is, a Hawk fanatic that will be introduced in just a minute. But before we get into it, I want to give a little bit of background on Eli/Hawk for those of you who are looking for a little bit of a refresher. At the end of season 3, this is a huge spoiler warning because we are going to be talking about his character over the course of the first 3 seasons and our predictions for season 4. So, like I said, huge spoiler warning. But at the end of season 3, we do see Hawk sort of redeem himself. He teams up with Dimitri in the house fight at the end, and we see him in the closing shot of the season. He's with Daniel and Johnny at that Eagle Fang Miyagi-Do mashup. So he's back on the side of the good guys as far as we know for the start of season 4, but he has had a really dramatic arc. He started out as Eli Moskowitz, the shy, nerdy, lacking confidence kid with the weird lip. And he has changed so much, so many different transformations. Obviously, the big one being when he flips the script in season 1 and he becomes Hawk. But as the seasons go on, his mentality has transformed as well. And he got darker and darker until we were at a place where he really was the bully. And I think it's really exciting that there is a character like this out there that is so relatable. Before we dive into it, I do also want to give a disclaimer and a trauma warning. We are going to be talking about some difficult subjects on mental health, on identity. And if those things are going to make you uncomfortable, please don't listen. I am by no means an expert on mental health or trauma or anything like that. I'm just an enthusiast on the subject. I like to keep myself informed on these kind of subjects so that I can look at characters more analytically in shows and movies and books. So yeah, by no means am I or my guest host an expert on these subjects, and everything that we're saying is our own thoughts and opinions. Nothing is fact. None of our predictions are necessarily going to happen. And, what we might think that Hawk is thinking in a certain scenario, the big three or Jacob could tell us that that's absolutely not true. So all of it is us just kind of shooting the shit, speculating, analyzing, and trying to understand a little bit more. But yeah, if that is going to upset anybody, please know that this is your warning right here, your trigger warning. So I appreciate anybody who chooses to listen to us analyze this character. But yeah, all of it is our own opinions. So I just wanted to make sure that that was stated. And without further ado, I am going to bring in my guest host in 3, 2. Since we're diving into the character of Eli/Hawk Moskowitz, I figured there's no one better to bring in than an expert. I have Jess, who runs the Team X Hawk account on Instagram. If you haven't followed her, definitely go give her a follow. She gives really good insight into the character and into Jacob and his acting. And I really just love your account. So I'm glad that you could be here.
Oh, thanks, girl. I like your account too.
Well, I figured, I should bring in the Hawk expert if I'm gonna start detailing.
Yeah, just let me bring up Jacob. Oh, wait, no, it's not no.
Not quite, but I've got a very close second. And I know that Hawk is a character that you connect really deeply with. So I wanted to kind of start there, just what drew you to his character and when did you pick up on the fact that you just related really, really strongly to him?
Well, first of all, he's hot. So that was my initial okay. And then the more I watched his character, I just really started to admire his storyline, and I felt a real connection with it because I didn't really have a lot of friends growing up. I was kind of the oddball out, and I didn't really have anyone to turn to or talk to. I had kind of he has with Dimitri, literally had one friend. And so to see him just kind of transform into a completely different person and get more confident in himself throughout the season is definitely inspiring, and definitely is what kind of drew me to his character. So yeah.
Yeah, and I picked out a really key word there, transform. And there's a lot of transformation within his character. I mean, obviously he starts going by a different name, comes up with a whole different appearance, and his personality goes through a transformation as well. So the first thing that I want to kind of talk about is that physical transformation that he made, and it led to his mental transformation. I feel I don't know that it started off mental. It may have honestly started off physical. And I feel that's not that common, where you change the outside first and the inside changes after. I feel most people change their outside appearance after they've kind of shifted how they feel inside. And I don't know, I feel the mohawk for him and the tattoo for him was the pushing off point to make that mental transformation.
Yeah, I mean, I think when he first walked into the dojo, well, even before they go into the dojo, we have this moment. I think it's season 2, episode 3 or 4, whenever Miguel is first trying to recruit people to the dojo because they need people. So Miguel's I come and join karate. I can get you guys a discount. And I feel Eli is really influenced by Dimitri in the first 3 or 4 episodes of Cobra Kai, because Dimitri's all he's ever known. To me, I think him and Dimitri have probably been best friends since they were 5 years old, or they go way, way back. So when Dimitri kind of brushes off the whole karate idea and he's oh yeah, let's go do some karate, Eli, blah, 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 blah. You'll become super badass, whatever. Eli kind of like looks at Dimitri and is like, yeah, like I'm not really gonna do this. Like, yeah, no way. That this isn't for us. Like Miguel maybe, but not for us. And then he sees Miguel beat up Kyler and Brooks and all of like his bullies. I feel like that kind of changes his perspective, and I really almost wish that we would have gotten more shots of Eli's reaction to Miguel beating them all up. And then right after that happens, that's whenever Eli joins Cobra Kai and he's more serious about it. So I think when he gets the mohawk, he didn't walk in with the intention of his personality completely shifting. He just wanted to be badass like his new friend Miguel. And yes, maybe a little bit of a shift, a little bit more confidence boost. Like, I feel like if you look good on the outside, it reflects how you feel on the inside. So I think once Johnny was like, oh, Hawk, like fall in, that just really clicked something in him and really brought out like a different personality.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what you're saying about that cafeteria scene too, like when he first asks about karate, I do feel like he's interested and he is looking for something that is going to give him that confidence boost. But I find it interesting that he needed something to give him the push. Like it wasn't him pushing, it was him needing something to push him. And whether that be Cobra Kai, Johnny, Miguel, whoever, he did get that ultimate push and he ended up completely changing his appearance, totally transforming himself. And in the episodes that follow, we see a personality transformation that takes on a much darker turn. And obviously, the deeper into the seasons you get, the darker and darker he goes, and the more his personality has shifted. And it's funny because I feel like his true, authentic self isn't the Eli we see at the beginning, but it's also not the Hawk that you're seeing in season 3.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely feel like he's still trying to find himself. Like, for example, before he even flips the mohawk and Johnny is like, gouge your eye out, get a face tattoo. I kind of wish we would have seen when he walks out of the dojo, like, does he go right to the hairdressers and get his hair like buzzed off and thrown up into a mohawk? Does he go and talk to Dimitri about what just happened? Like, where does he go from there? How do we actually get that full transformation? Like, what is it about Johnny that makes him really want to change himself? And when Johnny's talking about the spectrum, I feel like, some people think like, oh, autistic or things like that. But I honestly think he has a personality disorder. And that really is like playing a factor into the character Hawk. And I find, like me, I have a personality disorder. So I know how hard it is to find, like, even still, like I'm trying to find my identity. So it's really hard for people who have that kind of disorder to find to find who they really are. So I feel like in season 4, we're really gonna continue to see his journey through that, and really, hopefully, I don't want to say the journey will end because the journey's forever, but hopefully we'll see more of him finding his identity.
Yeah, and I mean anything like that, any kind of personality disorder or whatever he might be going through, it's all coming from developmental trauma. There is something in his life that we have and also probably haven't seen, because we obviously saw the bullying aspect, but there had to be more going on than that in his early developmental stages to kind of create that personality disorder, or that the lack of confidence, whatever was repressing his authenticity and his like true self. I think
Yeah.
we're missing a piece of that puzzle. And I don't know if you have any theories on that, if you want to kind of dive
Yeah.
in. I mean, we obviously see his mother. We don't ever get to meet his father. I don't know what your thoughts are, but obviously the Hawk persona is a complete shift due to the trauma.
Well, I think that's a good point you bring up with, like, you know, we meet his mom, Caroline, I think Caroline Granger. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, but she's phenomenal in that scene. You know, just her reactions to her son. I just think she's incredible. So we don't see his father, we don't meet his father, and I don't think we're ever going to, because as sad as it is, you know, I feel like maybe him being on the spectrum was something that they knew about before he was born, or maybe it was something that he developed at like a young age, like they discovered it by the age of 3 or the age of 5. I know I was diagnosed at like the age of 7. So sometimes parents can't really handle if their child isn't, I say normal lightly, but I feel like maybe his dad walked out on them. And I really would like to see, I would like to see his mom be like a single mom and raising him on her own, because he's so drawn to Johnny and he's so drawn to Kreese, and I just feel like he's just craving that like male figure, that a young boy who's going in high school and all like those changes and girls and everything. So I feel like that's a huge thing that he's missing. So whenever he went into the dojo, I think he was hoping to find the same relationship Miguel had found with Johnny, because Miguel's father's not in the picture either. So that could be something that Eli and Miguel have in common, and they can, you know, go off that with each other. So I think he was really looking for that relationship with Johnny, and for him to not get that, well, okay, I'm not going to get it with Johnny. So, oh, here's Kreese. Well, maybe I can get it with Kreese, because he was quite upset whenever Kreese was not coming back to the dojo. He was like, well, where's Sensei Kreese? So why would he say that? Why wouldn't he see all of the bad things that Kreese is doing already? Why is it so important for him to have Kreese there? Well, Johnny's already kind of brushed him off, so he's just looking for that missing piece in his life. And I really feel like his mom is a single mom, and his dad left him whenever he was a young boy.
Yeah, I mean, he might have left. He might be one of those like business fathers who's just never around for whatever reason. I get the feeling that he and his father don't have a good relationship. However, that boils down. There's no real relationship there. And if there is, it's a negative one where he instills the feeling of not being good enough in Eli. Because there are definitely parents out there that are there but not present, and they make you feel like you aren't worth their time, you aren't good enough, and that invalidating feeling that would lead someone to want to prove how tough they are, how good they are, how confident they are, whatever, that led Hawk to make that kind of a decision. And I do think Johnny did kind of brush him off. You see several scenes where he and Miguel are talking to Johnny, and Johnny really does kind of just like push past Hawk, and he's dealing with Miguel, he's dealing with Robbie, and he's got a lot going on. And I think Hawk is still getting that same feeling of, you know, I made all these changes and it's still not good enough for my sensei who I look up to. And comes around and he gives off an even tougher, more suave, like very charming kind of personality. I think Hawk is really drawn to that. And he thinks that this man is cool. He's tough. He was in, you know, the wars, and he's, you know, he did this and all of these really cool things that to a young teenage boy who's looking for a way to be stronger, tougher, more badass, like that's the kind of person that you'd be drawn to.
Yeah.
But it's starting to create these compulsive behavior patterns within him that we didn't see in the beginning. So you're seeing like repetitively, you're seeing like these acts of and outbursts of violence and outbursts of anger, and he's becoming manipulative. And like in season 3, with when he destroyed Dimitri's school project, and he pulled the whole stunt with Counselor Blatt, and kind of making sure that they got away with it and that it looked like the Miyagi-Do kids were the bad guys. So he's developing a lot of bad compulsive behaviors that I think contribute to his push into like this darkness, the Red Hawk phase.
Yeah, I definitely think Kreese had like a mega, everyone knows Kreese had like a mega influence over Hawk, which, you know, it definitely scared me. I was like, don't hurt him. But I think another person who has had, well, another couple people, Dimitri and Hawk have been, or Dimitri and Eli have been friends forever. And I think back to, you know, Dimitri and Eli, binary brothers, you know, whenever they were having the victory nachos, and Dimitri had nothing to do with the victory, but he was still there. And he was like, well, let's consider this like the victory for the coding competition at computer camp. And like, when did that camp take place? Is that how they met? But, you know, Dimitri's always been the type of kid, like, never going to do anything wrong, and he always follows the rules, and he makes sure that he's doing things right. He keeps to himself. He's not trying to like start any drama or anything like that. So for, I don't know, had like the last like 16 years of Eli's life, I guess, would be, that is the only person that he's really known to have that influence on him. So up until meeting Miguel, he just really was following Dimitri's path and doing like all the right things. And I feel like there's times where Eli wants to say something different, where he kind of does when Miguel kind of comes in and joins they become like a little trio. Eli does get a little bit more confidence in himself, like whenever they're in the library, and he's like, oh, I thought it was really cool how you stood up to Kyler. But even still, Dimitri then like kind of shuts him down and is like, yeah, whatever, and whatnot. So I think back to, as well, season 2, episode 5, to the scene where he's crying to his mom about like all of the bullying. And I'm wondering if that happened before he met Miguel or after, because he's like, I'm never going to have any friends besides Dimitri. And then we see Eli in like the same sweater and everything, like very early on. So I feel like that whole scene happened right before. And then as soon as he meets Miguel has this whole persona, like, okay, strike first, I'm going up to talk to Sam because I think she's attractive. And then he gets shot down, but then he gets back up again, and he goes and he beats up Kyler, and he even though he gets his butt kicked first, he does it again. And I think the more Eli sees that, he's like, I don't really need to follow Dimitri's way anymore. I've got a new friend now. So he's more inclined to Miguel's way of life than Dimitri's way of life. But at the same time, he knows Dimitri's his best friend, and Dimitri definitely knows things about Eli that Miguel probably doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
So just like, I just feel like Miguel has more of an influence over Eli than probably anybody.
Yeah, and I think it's been a common theme in his life of letting other people influence him and dictate his decisions. And obviously he's going through some kind of identity crisis, whatever it may be, whether it's personality disorder, whatever is going on. He is really struggling with finding himself, and he has let a lot of people influence how he lives his life, and it's created this roller coaster of personalities for him. I feel like he is never consistent in who he is. and he's trying out all these different things. And the difference I feel like between him and Miguel is Miguel was just much more sure, and he was more of the take charge and more of the leader. And
Yeah.
Eli's personality type, and along with his ignorance and his youth and all of the trauma that he's already been through, it's making him more susceptible to falling victim to like the Cobra Kai no mercy part of the mantra.
Yeah.
But like why is that? Why do some people, and why does Eli follow that so to the letter? Like what part of that is so influential to him and
Yeah.
takes such deep root in him that he can't like get past it? Because you obviously see Miguel look past it, and it's not just Johnny that does that for him. It's himself. He realizes he doesn't want to be that way. And I think a part of it was like when Sam got upset with him, and you see Moon get upset with Hawk and break up with him for becoming a bully, and it doesn't click for him. Like, it doesn't shift his mentality at all. If anything, it makes him hang on to it even tighter. And like, what kind of personality type is that to be letting that take such make such an influence on your life?
I think in his eyes he wasn't doing anything wrong. And yeah, when Moon broke up with him, I think that, she definitely had an influence on Hawk for like a long, because, I'm never going to get a girlfriend. And then he finally starts dating Moon. And I was thinking about this today. I'm like, I wonder if Eli actually had a crush on Moon for like a long time. And that's why maybe she has so much influence over him. But I think he's felt this way for a long time. Like I know personally, like me, I always wanted to be able to stand up to my bullies and beat the shit out of them, like how he beat the shit out of Brooks, and just kind of become like the bullied always wants to become the bully until we actually get there. And then you're just like, no, it's important to treat people the way you want to be treated. So I think once he finally gets that power, he just doesn't realize how far he's going. Like, I mean, when he had Dimitri and Miguel, they were kind of able to hold him down a little bit from going too crazy. So whenever Dimitri went to Miyagi-Do, he was lost, but he still had Miguel. And then when Miguel got into the coma, like, I think when Miguel was kicked off the balcony, that was the real turning point for Hawk, and was like, well, I can't be following Johnny anymore. I can't be listening to his influence. It's Kreese. Kreese is the good one. Kreese is the one that knows what he's doing. He was Sensei's sensei. So
yeah, do you think
he's the one that knows
Johnny? Do you think he saw Johnny and Miguel as being weak after that happened?
I think maybe not so much Miguel, but more Johnny as being weak. And I think because he was, I feel like he wasn't as into like the no mercy up until Miguel got kicked off the balcony. Because in the mall fight with Dimitri, before it even starts, like, Dimitri's like, I know who you really are, Eli. And you see that little bit of like mercy that he wants to show to Dimitri and not break his arm that time. And I find like that whole fight, because he believed in mercy, that's why he lost. Can you imagine if Kreese had the influence over him that Kreese has had in season 3? Hawk would not have lost that mall fight. He wouldn't have.
Yeah. I think that Eli and Hawk, I think he's the type of person to avoid weakness whenever possible. After making his transformation, he's almost afraid to be seen as weak again, to go back to that place. And he's trying so hard to keep that repressed and to keep that part of himself away from what other people are seeing. And so I think that's why he hangs on to that part of the mantra so hard, because
Yeah.
if he shows any kind of mercy, he could be perceived as weak. And I don't think
Yeah.
he wants to be perceived as weak.
No, not at all. Not at all. So but then at the end of season 3, I was like literally screaming at the TV. I'm like, yes, Hawk, go save your best friend. At that point, he's like, I don't think it becomes about showing mercy or anything. I don't even think he's thinking about being merciful then. He just sees his best friend and he's starting to realize just what happens when you don't show mercy and just, losing all of your friends and becoming friends with the bullies. Like, he's just like, this is not the path that I wanted to go down. So
yeah, I think there are so many moments where you see him start to find a little bit of clarity in where he wants to toe the line between Eli and Hawk. Because I know you've talked about this on your page before. So I want to get into a little bit. The Eli Hawk, are they one person? Are they two people? Like, how do you view that? Because personally, I see Eli Hawk as one person. But what I really think is that Eli sees Hawk and Eli as two different people. And that's where it gets confusing.
Yeah. I mean, Jacob himself has said, like, in the interview with, I can't remember if it was the first one or the second. I feel like it's both interviews that he did with Cobra Kai Companion. Shout out, Peter. But I feel like because, like, when he first went into the audition room, he was just given the Eli script. So he's never really seen them as two people. And yeah, I agree with you that Eli would see Hawk as like a different person, because every time someone calls him Eli, he's like, it's Hawk, and he corrects them. So yeah, that's a good point. I never even thought about it like that, but I definitely see them as one person. Like, I'm kind of starting to call him Eli now more than I'm calling him Hawk. Because he only has that name because of his hair, but he doesn't need that name. I feel like this is what I really hope to see in season 4, is that he realizes that he doesn't need to have that mohawk. He doesn't need to have that anything like that, to realize that it's all coming from within. And I really think that's going to be Eli's biggest struggle in season 4 is, well, do I keep this hair or do I not keep this hair? Like, what do I keep? Like, what do I do here? I don't want to be perceived as the bad guy. So maybe he, theory here, maybe he shaves off his mohawk because to prove to Miyagi-Do that I'm not this evil asshole anymore who wants to beat all of you guys up. Like, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm kind of as weak as you guys are, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I lean towards the fact that Eli sees Hawk as a separate, not even a separate person, but a separate persona, an act he's putting on. Because like, you see it in earlier seasons and in like specific scenes, you see like little pieces of Eli coming out.
Yeah.
And Hawk just like shoving it back down. So like you mentioned before, when Dimitri brings up the competition, like the robotics competition, I think.
Yeah. The coding competition, whatever.
Competition. Yeah. And like Hawk is like, oh, don't bring up that nerd shit. Like, or it's a lot of times it's around Dimitri too. It's around the person that knew him best when he was Eli, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so like when they're at the party and they're talking about Doctor Who and he gets all excited, or the comic book store and Dimitri brings up the new comic, and you can almost see like a little twinkle in his eyes, like as Eli getting excited about that kind of thing. And then shoving it down and saying like, I can't be like that. That was me when I was weak. Those are things that I liked when I was weak, and I'm not that person anymore. So I do think like to him, they're almost separate entities, and I don't think he wants to be either. And I think season 4 is going to be all about him finding, like I said before, finding where to toe the line and who he really is. He can be Eli, and he can have Eli's interests and still be a tough, badass martial artist who can stand up for himself and can have the confidence in exactly who he is. It's almost like figuring out how to be confident in your true self, not how to be confident because of the persona you're putting on.
Yeah, and I agree. I feel like, and I also feel like having Dimitri and Miguel back will definitely help to ground him more and really help him keep his head on straight. It'll be interesting to see though who has that does he build that relationship with Johnny finally, or does he start something completely new with Daniel, because he did steal the Medal of Honor. So are we going to see something there where he apologizes? Like, I really hope we do, because that would be a great way to earn everyone's trust.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I want to hold up on talking about season 4 for a minute or so. I want to dive a little bit more into the middle to end of season 3 when we truly see Hawk realizing that he doesn't like who he's becoming. Kind of go a little bit more chronologically here. I have my thoughts about the specific moments when I feel like it started to click for him, when little things started to click for him. I don't know if you have one in your head, but if you want to share.
I mean, I don't really, I feel like I did see like little moments, like especially after he broke his arm, and then whenever Miguel comes back and didn't approve of that at all. And then of course, whenever he hugs Kyler, and then he's like, what am I doing? So we do see little moments of like, okay, I'm going down the wrong path. But I think like the biggest one is when he's given that opportunity to break Dimitri's arm again, or worse, or finally come back and tap back a little bit into Blue Hawk rather than Red Hawk.
Yeah. I think it's more about when he stops letting other people influence his decisions. I really do. And I don't think we're going to see that as much. Like, I don't think it's going to really matter as much who is around him in season 4, in the sense that he's going to be making his own choices. And he's not going to be looking to someone for approval. That's what I hope anyway, because I think that's what he really needs to do.
And it was kind of like that in season 3, where he finally became like the top dog, like the alpha. Like he was gunning for that. When Kreese was like, oh, I need to find a new champion, Hawk was like, that's going to be me. So when he finally realized that he had that power, I don't think when Kreese said, like, I need to find a new champion, Hawk automatically just thought he was giving the championship to him. So I think once he realized that, he knew, like, okay, well, I don't need anybody telling me what to do. Like, it's my way now. Like how we saw, like in the soccer game, like, Kreese said we have to fight smart, and that's exactly what he did. And he didn't wait for someone to say, well, no, we should do it this way. Like, who told you to think?
Well, I still think that he's letting Kreese be his influence there. And I think that
definitely
he sees himself as Kreese's champion. And so he's still like letting Kreese be influential, but we do see him start to be a leader, and that's great. But I think personally, I think the Dimitri arm break scene in the laser tag place is really where I first started to notice it, because it's really evident that there's a lot of peer pressure going on.
Absolutely.
When he's standing over Dimitri and everyone is cheering him on, and he breaks his arm because everybody else is telling him to.
Yeah, and that kind of like touches back.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
As he's walking
that touches back on you saying about him, not wanting to be weak. If he didn't break his arm, what's Cobra Kai gonna think about him?
But yeah, but it's exactly that, is what are they going to think about him? And as he's walking away, I think it starts to plant the seed in his head of like, okay, great. Well, they don't perceive me as weak. They think I'm a badass. And I did it because of that. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to hurt him. So why did I? And then it's like, oh, because they thought I should, to be cool. And I did that so that I didn't look weak to them.
Yeah.
And then I think the second turning point, because I think that's number one. And the second turning point is when Kyler shows up and Brooke shows up at the dojo. And he's expected to start hanging out with Kyler. So you see them show up and he goes up to Kreese and he's so confused because he's like, well, this isn't the place for them because they're bullies. And so maybe by seeing Kreese be so accepting of them and so accepting of the bullies, he's realizing, okay, Kreese's Cobra Kai is a place for bullies. And that's not is that who I am? Like, am I becoming just as bad as they are? And being almost forced to hang out with Kyler, it's like, well, now not only am I just as bad as them, but I'm doing what what he does, and I'm hanging out with him, and I'm his friend. That doesn't make any sense. And I think that was like the second turning point. And so when he was given the opportunity to choose his best friend or the bullies that caused such trauma in his life, I don't think it was that difficult of a decision. And I think he'll see the repercussions and how difficult that decision becomes now that he has to face all the people that he hurt. But in that moment, there was no decision that he was making. He was just trying to, I don't think he was going, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? I think he was like, I want to, can I?
Yeah.
Not
absolutely.
Not should I.
Absolutely. And I think before they even entered the dojo, Kyler and Brooks, we had that whole scene where Cobra Kai is talking about like what's such a great job that Hawk did with breaking Dimitri's arm, and you see that like Jacob, he does it so well, where he's just like thanks, like it's so obvious in his face that he didn't really want to do that, but he's so quick to just like snap and be like, oh no, yeah, like I'm a badass. And then when he sees them walk in the dojo, it kind of brings him back to like, oh shit, this is why I joined Cobra Kai in the first place, is so that I wouldn't be scared of these people coming at me at all. So because he thinks he's the champion, he's top dog, he just broke Dimitri's arm, he thinks he has this huge influence, he goes over to Kreese, and he finally feels like he told Kreese, instead of Johnny, he told Kreese about him stealing the Medal of Honor. He didn't tell Johnny, told Kreese. And I feel like if Johnny didn't take off and leave, he probably wouldn't have had told Kreese. So like he just feels comfortable telling Kreese all this stuff. So whenever he goes up to Kreese and says like, hey, like, I don't think these guys are Cobra Kai material, I think Kreese can see that weakness coming back in Hawk's eyes and is like, kind of brushing it off. And Hawk didn't expect that at all. He really thought that maybe he had some influence on at least what Cobra Kai would be, being their new top dog or whatever. So then for Kreese just to let them come in, and then we see Mitch get
booted,
immediately kicked out after he loses to Kyler. Hawk is like, okay, well, I'm the top, so I can't let that happen. Like, I'm definitely gonna show Kreese that I deserve the respect, and I need the respect. So
yeah,
I think it's more about him showing Kreese that he's top dog. Yes, it's about, him getting revenge on his bullies for sure, but he's looking at Kreese like pretty near the entire time, waiting for that like okay, and then Kreese puts away the flags or whatever they are. So I think it's more about that, showing that I'm the top bully. Like, I think he even wanted to take that from Kyler, because they were like, oh, Lip, we thought you moved.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to take that from Kyler, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Kreese deserves his own episode of analysis, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I think he does thrive on people like Hawk, and Johnny, if you think about it, was a lot like Eli when he first joined Cobra Kai, and Kreese master puppeteering comes in at its finest, and his charm comes in at its finest when there's a kid who is insecure and doesn't really know who he is, who his friends are, where he fits in, and he takes kind of a shell and he manipulates and he twists and he turns them into what he wants. So I think Hawk was the perfect clay to mold, because Miguel wasn't giving him what he wanted. Like, obviously Miguel's loyalties lied with Johnny, and I think Kreese saw that and kind of backed off. He didn't really do much with it. And he really didn't try. But people like Tori and people like Eli, who are lacking something in their identity, in their confidence, in something like that he is able to really manipulate them, and really convince them that this is the way, and there isn't any other way in order to be stronger.
Yeah.
People who see themselves as weak, or their situation in life as weak, are the easiest, I think, for Kreese to prey on. And I use that word very intentionally. He does. He preys on these kids with insecurities and with weakness, and he takes advantage of them. So
it'd be a funny scene if, like, if it was like Eli's mom, like, on the phone, my son is being a bully every day, and it's because of you, sir. Like, I'd like to see Eli's mom. I'm gonna give her name. Her name is now Francine. It'd be cool to see Francine, go up to Kreese and smack the shit out of him, like how Amanda did.
Yeah, well,
like, he took advantage of her baby.
What do you think his mom thought of his initial transformation? He still went to Cobra Kai.
I honestly think maybe his mom, because she was so, like, no parent wants to see their child suffer and be sad and crying. So I have to wonder if that was the first phone call that she made to the school about his bullying, because I feel like even though she had, like, literally like 15 minutes of fame with that scene, she told us a lot about her character and just how much she genuinely cares for her son. And if it really is just the two of them, then absolutely, it's like, a mother's love never dies. So I think when she saw the Blue Hawk, she was like, oh, finally, like, my son's starting to fit in, make new friends, join karate, like, kind of how, like, Carmen took a little while to, like, warm up to the whole idea of, like, Miguel doing karate, but at the same time she was like, he's got more confident and everything. So I feel like Eli's mom is kind of the same way, like, oh, he's more confident, he has more friends, and yada yada. And then when he dyed his hair red, she just didn't think anything of it. She's just like, oh, he's still doing the karate thing. I just feel like she just doesn't know as much about it, and I definitely think that she does not know about the tattoo yet, and I don't think we'll ever see that reaction.
No, but
although if Jacob wants to take his shirt off, that's okay too.
Okay, I do concur that I think that she saw it as a positive, probably more like Aisha's mom did. Who saw at the pool scene, like, it was the best thing she ever did, and all of that. I think that's probably more how his mom felt at the beginning. And I think the more he took on the Hawk persona, the less he probably talk to his mom and let her know things that were going on in his life. Because she was probably one of his only confidants at one point. And how did she even know about all the bullying? He had to tell her. He had to say something. Because it wasn't visible. Like there was no, no bruises or anything unless we hadn't previously seen that. So she had to find out from someone, and it was probably from him. And I think the more he becomes Hawk, the less he communicates with his mom. And I don't know that right away she sees it as a problem, but like moms have that kind of intuition where they know something's up, and she's probably asking him about Dimitri. And I feel like she probably had some influence in his shift at the end of season 3. Like, hey, where's Dimitri? I heard Dimitri broke his arm. Like, because their moms probably talk. Like,
oh, definitely.
His arm, is he okay? Like, have you gone to see him? Did you sign his cast? Do you want to go over there and go check on him? Like, she's probably, without even realizing it, pushing these things on him. And she might be starting to notice, like, and maybe she's just equating it to like teenage angst or whatever. But like, notice when your sibling or your whoever in your family changes their personality and goes through their teenage time, where everything they say has got this edge and an attitude, and they're cranky about everything. And but she probably saw a really drastic shift at one point, probably when the Red Hawk came out, honestly. Like a pretty drastic shift in the things he talked about, the things that he cared about, and like I think that she probably knew something was up. And I don't know why she didn't investigate anymore. Maybe it was in the back of her mind. She was like, well, he's confident and he seems happy and whatever, but she had to know something was up after a while.
Maybe they'll release deleted scenes, season 3. Hawk comes home and he drops his bag, and we see his mom hang up the phone, and they do that whole like, turn the light on in the darkness. He's like, where have you been? And he's like, just out playing laser tag with Cobra Kai. Well, I just got off the phone with Dimitri's mom, and she's in the hospital. Like, I feel like she would go mom on his ass at the same time. Like, she's not gonna. She didn't raise Eli to be a bully. So I feel like, I agree. She definitely probably has had some more influence on him with like, like, you can't be doing that to your best friend. Like, he's been so nice to you all those times that he's had your back. And really, Dimitri was the one to stand up for him whenever Johnny was initially making fun of his facial deformity. So, I think his mom would be shocked by that. And I agree with you. Like, mom intuition, she would be like asking a million questions and wondering what's going on. So, I
think there's more behind the scenes that, we don't get to see, that play into a lot of these characters. But
Hawkling, let's ask them now, everyone.
We can now look a little bit to the future, towards season 4, and what you brought it up a little bit before, but some of the repercussions for his actions.
Is it bad that I really want to see, just because I'm going to cry. I will. I know, because Jacob's fucking brilliant, but I'm going to cry. But like, I really want to see Hawk get his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Because he's been such a dick.
He kind of
someone needs to beat him up.
I think Dimitri needs to give him a really good slap. Like, I think in the moment during the fight, when Hawk came in to help him, Dimitri, all he was probably thinking was, I have my friend back. Like, this is all I've wanted. I've wanted him back or whatever. But I think we might see a scene very early on, like, where maybe they're talking about it, maybe they're not talking about it. I don't know. And Dimitri just gives him a really good slap or a shove or something.
They're doing that.
And is just like, that's for my arm, you bitch. Like,
They're doing the, what is it? The thing where Daniel was calling out like the 2, 6, 4. They're doing that thing. and Dimitri kicks him just a little bit harder than he normally would, kind of.
I don't even want to see it then. I just want them to be like standing next to each other at one point, and Dimitri just turn around and like boom, bitch slap, and like just be like, yeah, you know you deserve that. Like I've been holding that one back for like a week, or you know what I mean? Like I think that'd be really funny and kind of on brand with Dimitri's character.
Oh, absolutely.
I do think
hit him in the face with a comic book.
I think he does forgive Eli. I just don't think
he forgives, but he doesn't forget. Dimitri's not an idiot.
There's a lot of trust that needs to be built back, but I do think that at the core of it, he's forgiven, and all Dimitri wanted was Eli.
I just thought of this, you know, like how long, okay, let me ask you first. How long do you think Dimitri, in your opinion, how long do you think Dimitri and Eli have been friends?
I would imagine at least since middle school.
Middle school. So do you think this is the first time Dimitri has seen Eli do this kind of like reaction where like he's become this like super bully? Or do you think maybe not so much like as how he's doing it with Hawk, but like maybe just like in private, like, I don't know, do guys do sleepovers like girls do? But maybe they had like a sleepover one night and way back when, and there was this moment where Eli was getting bullied and he was confiding to Dimitri about it and getting super angry about it. So I feel like maybe Dimitri has seen like these other sides of him. So he is a little bit more understanding when it comes to Hawk's outbursts.
I would say probably in the sense that like he's seen him want to change before. Not necessarily like seen a different persona or seen like a super angry streak, but like maybe just like in passing of like he's talking about the bullies and he's like one day they're going to get what they deserve or something like that, like a passing comment where I think Dimitri's always known that Hawk is struggling with this feeling of being the bottom of the food chain and he doesn't want to be. But I don't think he's ever seen him make that kind of a jump where he tries not to be, where he tries to be more confident, where he tries to do something. I think that was very much brought on by Miguel, because I think Dimitri
absolutely
repressed that side of him a little bit and like kept him very reserved, because Dimitri by nature is very reserved. And so I don't think it ever came out because I don't think Dimitri ever brought it out of him. But I bet you there were little passing comments where Dimitri was like, "Oh, did you really just say that? Like, oh, they deserve, or like, I wish I could beat them up, or like, I wish whatever, like, you know, when you say like, oh, I wish like they would just go get hit by a bus or something like that. Like, I feel like Dimitri wouldn't say something like that, but Eli might. And
Eli, absolutely.
Like, this kid's got a lot of anger. Like,
like, I mean, Dimitri has had to have seen this anger before. Like, he can't, but like, he just maybe didn't know that it would get this bad. And I feel like, I don't know, I almost want to say like he's got like bipolar disorder and like a personality disorder. And it's like so easy to say that, but it could just be like a young boy just simply struggling with where he's supposed to fit in life.
I think that's more along the lines of what it is. I think that it's trauma and it's teenage identity struggles, just, run of the mill, but because
we haven't heard anything like, oh, the doctor said I could be on the spectrum. We haven't heard anything about it since season 1. So I feel like it was just something the writers put in there.
Even if he is like slightly on the spectrum or something, I still think it's normal teenage personality, identity struggle, but it's amplified. And it's made, he's so quick to shift influence because of that trauma. And I feel like a part of that trauma is the bullies and feeling insecure because of his bullies. And I also think his home life is a separate trauma, which is why I think whatever went on with his dad, I think that's why he shifts influential figures so easily. Because I don't think he's ever had a staple.
We want to see John Hurwitz. We want to see more We want to see more of the backstory. John. John! Anyway.
I think it's almost implied. I think there's something, he was missing an influential figure, and he's so ready to jump ship at what he thinks is bigger and better, because he wants to be bigger and better. And I think there's like he wants to climb the ladder, the social ladder, the strength ladder, whatever it is, to be the top, because he's so sick of being on the bottom.
Absolutely. And then once he finally gets there, he just doesn't know what is it? There's like a saying, I can't think of it right now, but like, it's something like, it's just interesting to see like what he does with all of that power that he's giving. Like, it's almost like it's an episode of Big Brother and he's head of household.
Yeah, and look, he's a 16-year-old. What do you do with that kind of newfound power and confidence? Like, it's so
beat everyone up.
No, but it's so easy to abuse if you have the wrong influences in your life. And that was what connected me to the character initially, is like, I had negative influences in my life, and when I was given that kind of power, when I started taking karate, I took it into my own hands and I used it in a negative way. I used it in a way that hurt other people. And it took other influences in my life to clue me into the fact that that's not the way to use that power. And so anybody at that age is so easily manipulated, and it is so easily sent in the wrong direction, because, we're young. Our own morals haven't been totally built yet. And we're going through teenage rebellion period where we're not sure if we want to have the same morals as our parents. And so at that time, I feel like no one has any morals. Like, we're still trying to figure out where we draw the line and like how we feel about certain things. And so it's so easy when you get this huge influx of power, confidence, strength, to just misuse it.
Yeah.
It's so easy. And I think he realized that. He wants to change. And now at 17, 18, like, the older he gets, like, I feel like college is a place where people start to really discover who they are. It's not necessarily high school, but I think he's going to be understanding a little bit more that he needs to figure out who he is. And so I think we'll see a lot of identity struggles in season 4, but identity repair. I think he's had the struggles. It's all crumbled in front of him. He doesn't want what he was doing anymore, and he needs to rebuild himself kind of from the ground up, like start over and work on Eli again.
And I think ultimately what he wanted, like, he was pretty disappointed whenever Dimitri dropped out of Cobra Kai. Like, he ultimately, words are hard. He ultimately wanted Dimitri to join, his bestest friend in the whole wide world. He wanted him to join karate with him. And now he has that. He's just not in Cobra Kai. He's in Eagle, Mongoose Fang, Do, Miyagi. That's where he is.
Whatever the hell it's called.
Whatever it's going to, exactly. We don't know anything. So I think that now that he's ultimately has that goal of being like badass binary brothers, why do I feel like that's something they're going to say next season? Badass binary brothers.
That'd be a good little alliteration, a little term to coin.
Yeah, so I think Dimitri's gonna have, and like Dimitri's changed a lot too. He's
very different than when we first.
Yeah. So I think now that Dimitri's a little bit, and they're both like finding themselves, but they've been lost without each other. They've really truly been lost without, because like they're binary keyword brothers. So having the two of them back together is going to be really
important,
incredible. Yeah. And throw Miguel into the mix, and I'd like to see how, I feel like we're not going to see too many scenes with him and Sam, because prior to, him and Sam never really talked that much. They were only button heads because Miguel was in the hospital and Miyagi-Do put him there, kind of thing. So
Yeah, and I also kind of going back to what you almost alluded to before, and I said let's put a lid on that until we talk about season 4. Is I think that it's going to become Daniel that becomes the more impactful figure of the two. Because
Yeah.
I think he saw Johnny as like this idol, this thing to look up to, and um, he burned him. And I think now making his own decisions and not leading his life off of influence, I think he's
Yeah.
going to realize that, especially with the help of Dimitri, that what he really wanted most was to feel strong and to feel confident that he could take care of himself and not that he had to be the bully. And
Yeah.
as badass as he wants to be, I think he's going to see that like the Miyagi Do style, not
Well,
necessarily the mindset,
yeah.
but he's going to kind of keep some of that badass mindset, but the style that Daniel is teaching and the balance, particularly. I think that's what Hawk slash Eli is going to be
Mm,
searching for in his life is some balance because he's trying to
yeah.
figure out, you know, I was Eli, then I started being Hawk, then this happened, and there's this chaotic shift and this distance between these two things in my mind. How do
Mhm.
I make them one? And I think that Daniel is going to be the one who can teach him how to balance the two and how to
Oh,
come to
absolutely.
terms with his identity. So I do think that Daniel is going to be really important to him as a
Hmm.
sensei in season 4. And I don't
I wonder
know,
if that'll happen before or after he gets beaten up. It's gonna happen.
right? I don't know if he'll stay with Johnny, but like kind of use
Yeah.
Daniel's influence, or if he'll actually just go with Daniel. Like if for whatever reason Eagle Fang and Miyagi Do don't train together all the time or don't stay together or whatever happens, like I can see Hawk staying with Dimitri for
Yeah.
one, and also staying with Daniel. I can see that kind of becoming a really good mentor mentee relationship
Hmm.
as opposed to father son dynamic, which is, I think, what he had been searching for. But I don't think that's what he needs. I think he
I
needs.
wonder. I wonder who would have the more influence over him right now. Would it be Dimitri or Miguel? And I definitely think it's Dimitri. So yeah, I agree. Wherever Dimitri chooses to go, Hawkowitz is going to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I guess to talk about your theory a little bit, Jacob keeps saying Hawk dies in season 4.
Oh, it's the funniest thing.
And I think he's telling the truth.
I
I don't think he's lying to us. I think he's very cleverly
Because
alluding.
I run Team Hawk, I'm going to say he's definitely lying to us. But my theory may come true. But no, Jacob's definitely lying to us.
I think we're gonna see
So
the death
there's
of
no way.
Hawk. And that to me is kind of also where I pick up on the idea of Eli probably sees Hawk and Eli as two different people. I think
Hmm.
in some capacity, and you have your theory on how it's going to happen. I kind of agree with you, and I think I said this to a really long time ago is that I thought he would get beat up. I didn't take it as the death of Hawk at the time, but I thought
Yeah.
like that. My theory was kind of like, oh, if Eli Hawk gets training from Johnny and then Kreese and now Daniel, then he's going to be the
Yeah.
most well-rounded fighter. And odds are is he should be winning the All Valley tournament based on the skill and the balance and the confidence that he's going to have. But I don't think it makes sense in the story to have him win. I think
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense for somebody else to win, and so in order for that to happen he had to be taken out of the competition, and that's where I got the theory like, oh, maybe Cobra Kai comes and gets revenge on him for deserting them, and that's why he
Yeah.
gets beat up before the tournament. And then you took it one step further and came up with this whole plot line, this whole arc of like the death of Hawk.
Yeah.
where they shave his mohawk off and the whole thing. And I think that it's a really good theory. And
it's so funny. Like people
think-
are posting all like they're like, "Oh, I've seen this theory and seen that theory," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the one that came up with it."
right. And however it happens, I think that the part of Eli that is Hawk, and that was the Hawk we saw in seasons 2 and 3.
Blue Hawk.
Red Hawk 2 and 3, like the middle of 2 and 3. The really dark.
What's your opinion on it, Kitty Cat?
The really dark Kreese influenced Hawk is going to die in his mind. Like I think for however it happens, I think there's going to be no more Mohawk, and like the Hawk part of Eli will be no more. Which is why when Jacob says, "Oh, Hawk dies," I'm like, well, I feel like you're not lying. Like I feel like you're telling the truth in this really manipulative, really funny, like kind of twisted way.
Yeah, I think like I only heard him say it once in one interview. I can't even remember where the interview was, but he was like, someone asked him, they're like, "Oh, can you tell us anything about season 4?" Like, why did people even ask that? First of all, second of all, he was like, "Oh yeah, Hawk dies," and like I just played off that whole theory, and I really kind of like do hope that my theory comes true. Like I mainly want to see like a scene where after he gets beaten up, however it happens. I do want to see a scene where he's in the hospital alone with his thoughts, and because like whenever we don't really get too much alone time with him, and Jacob's so good at just like telling you everything that he's thinking, just like mainly with his eyes. I'm like, Jacob ever sees this, I'm stealing everything that you do for the character that I'm playing in my play. So anyway.
Yeah, he has really expressive eyes, really expressive facial features.
Yeah. So I think like just having that whole moment of him just being alone in a hospital bed where he's like really debating like if like his hair gets all chopped off or something, I really feel like Tori's going to be the one to orchestrate the whole thing. So if we do see this scene where he's like all by himself in the hospital bed with his thoughts, like it's going to be incredible.
I think he needs to cry. I don't know when it's going to happen, but he needs to have a breakdown. Like
a cry, like how he did in season 2.
It's so healing to just accept that, whatever it is, like whether it's when he's talking to Daniel about the Medal of Honor potentially, or after his head gets shaved potentially, or whatever potential moment comes up in season 4 that defines the transformation but the transformation to the true version of Eli. I think he's going to have this very emotional moment, and I think he might cry. Like, and I don't think that's weak. I don't see a guy crying as something that is weak. I actually see that as very strong to let yourself release all the emotions that you've had. And I don't know when it'll happen, but I think there's going to be a moment where he just lets go, and he lets go of all of it. And whether he cries or he has this profound, prolific moment, like I think he's going to have to just release all of that and let it go and move past it. And I think, and I keep saying it, but I think balance is going to be really important to him in season. It's
going to be key for him. I feel like, if he does cry, I think it'll be really good for like any young boys who are watching to see that they can be badass and still show emotion. Like I agree. It'll definitely be moving for sure. And
the most confident that he's been, because if you as a man, if you're confident enough to let your walls down, to show your emotions and to cry, I think that's the most confident you could be in yourself, because
girls find it attractive.
Yeah, you don't perceive yourself as weak. You perceive yourself as strong enough to let go of all of those emotions. And so I think when he finally accepts who he is, that's when we're gonna see that moment.
And I personally, I
we're
think
gonna get there. I think he's gonna get there in season 4. Towards the end of it.
I think like I agree with you when you say that Eli sees Hawk as a completely separate person, and I think Eli has become scared of the Hawk that he has become. Like, this is not what his initial intention was. So I think he's terrified of himself, and that's a battle to be scared of who you are.
Yeah.
Or who you're becoming. He's just lost.
All of this put together and all of these things that he's going to have to face in season 4, I know a lot of people want to see him reunite with Moon. And just to kind of touch on that briefly, because I don't think we need to dive super deep into it, but I don't think either of them are going to be at a place in their self-discovery where they should be jumping back into a relationship again. I think obviously Moon is dealing with her own struggles and her own sexuality. So I don't know that jumping back into a relationship with her ex is going to be the right move for her, and she's doing a lot of self-discovery.
And my favorite thing about Moon is, like, she doesn't hate Hawk. She doesn't hate him. She doesn't hate anybody. Like, she's like, you know, even at the party whenever she's having the makeout session with Piper, we love a bisexual queen. She's not rude to Hawk. She's like, oh, Hawk, this is Piper. Like, she's not trying to be mean about it. So I think we need to normalize boys and girls being friends and being like, if your ex wasn't that bad, if he was your friend kind of before or something, like, I don't know, just like normalize that boy-girl friendship.
You're not you don't, it doesn't make sense to be romantically attached.
Exactly. Like, you know that it'll be toxic. You know that you have to work on yourself, or on, you know, you have things to work on. So everyone's like, oh, I want them to get back together. I would like to see Hawk, you know, just kind of realize that he didn't even need Moon. He didn't need any of it. He just, it was all, everything was internal, and he had it all from within, and he never needed all of these, like, you know, like when you buy the Barbie doll and they say accessories are not included, and you want to buy the accessories so bad, but you forget to appreciate the Barbie doll that you just got. Right. But you think that she needs all of these other, like, she needs the fancy cars, she needs the fancy purse, she needs the dog, she needs all that. He's like starting to realize that he doesn't need any of that stuff to be exactly who he is.
He needs to be accepting of self-validation rather than outside validation. I think that's kind of what your Barbie metaphor is all about, is like, he just needs self-validation as opposed to relying on everybody else.
My cat would like to join, and she has something to say about Hawk. What would you like to say, Iris? Aw, they gave me a cat. They're so cute.
She's afraid of Hawk. Aren't cats afraid of hawks?
My cat, she's an oddball, that's for sure. She's
yeah. Well, I just don't see them. I don't see it being smart for them to get back together. Whether they do or don't, we'll see. High school kids are dumb sometimes, and they for what's comfortable and what's safe. So it's very possible, but I don't think that it would be the right move. And I don't think Moon is the type of person to just lean into what's safe. So I don't think she'd want to get back together.
And it's his first love. So who is still, well, I guess my parents, but who is still with their first, like, crush and first, like no. People, they move on. They date blondes. What? Anyway.
Yeah, I think that his dating life needs to go on a pause.
Yeah.
For a little bit and just focus on himself. And I think that eventually he'll realize that he and Moon weren't that compatible to begin with.
Yeah.
And
well, and it's funny because like let's take it back to their breakup scene. So
it was also surface level.
yeah,
It was
when
so first crush, like, I find you attractive. She touches his hair and his bicep, and then but she says, and she doesn't like this and this, like he's a bully, and like she's not,
and
they're not
he's
compatible.
shocked by that. Like that's what nobody sees, is that he's absolutely like, when she says, I like this and I like, or no, it's before that. He's like, oh, he's a fucking nerd. And then Moon reacts like, he's your friend. Like Hawk didn't expect that at all, because Moon and Yasmin, as far as I know, have been bullying him for the past like 3 to 4 years of his life. So for him, like, I feel like he became the bully to try to impress Moon, and he never had to do that because he already, had her. She was attracted to his hair and his biceps, and who isn't? But like
Moon's changed a lot too, though. I think
Yeah.
similar to Eli, she was letting a lot of other people influence her life. She was letting Yasmin lead her. She was letting Yasmin and popularity and pop culture and social culture dictate how she behaved and what she did and who she was friends with and who she should find attractive. And obviously that doesn't really fit with who she is. We see another side of her. Like, she's a pacifist. She's a little bit of a hippie. She's like very free and very,
I'm a sex positive feminist. Same girl.
Sex positive and a feminist. And she's all of these things that you don't really see in season 1. I feel like you see a very surface level, very shallow version of her in season 1. And like, so she's going through a lot of self-discovery as well. So I think they're coming from the same place. Like, they're coming from letting other people influence their lives and their decisions. So they have that in common. But I think when it all boils down, I don't think they're that compatible.
It goes back to like, you can't love someone else until you fully love yourself.
Exactly. So, 100%. That's 100% true. And I think Moon's going to get there a lot sooner.
Like, I could see them maybe doing like a casual hookup in season 4, and like possibly thinking like, I could see like maybe a big party with like everybody in Miyagi-Do and everything, and then Moon gets invited, and we see that scene, kind of a flashback where, Moon brushes her hair and Hawk does the whole like nod, like, oh, there she is. And they first like, I'm just going to get a beer. That whole, we'll see that whole like connection thing happen again. And then all they're going to do is like a casual hookup, and then maybe possibly realize like, no, this isn't gonna work, kind of thing.
Yeah, and when you think about it, we really didn't see much of them together, so I could be wrong, but I just, from what we know about,
we're probably all wrong about all of our theories, so
yeah, I mean, they're just theories, but from what I've seen of Moon and from what I've seen of Eli and Hawk and whoever he is, I think that their lives are going in different directions. I think they value mostly different things. I mean, at the core of it, they both value friendship a lot, but a lot of people value friendship, and absolutely, that their values are going to end up being different. And I don't think, even if they get back together in high school, I wouldn't see it working after high school, because high school relationships, the foundation of them is typically attraction and physical attraction, where relationships following high school are built more on personality and compatibility. Like, you don't have to be that compatible to date in high school.
Yeah, exactly.
You date who's around you.
Yeah, it's all about and it's all about who you're, like you say, like who you're hanging out with and who's like influencing you. And I really do strongly believe that Eli had a crush on Moon, or like any of the popular, not just Moon necessarily, like any of the popular girls. He just craved that life of like being popular and having a girlfriend. And when he finally got a little taste of it, it like goes back to like, what is it? It's like you don't want, you think you want what you want until you actually get it. And like he has it and he's like, okay, now what? Okay, now I have to be more badass. He just doesn't know what to do with it once he finally has it.
Yeah. I think it's, in a lot of ways, I think it's like what Allie was for Johnny, and this kind of like fantasy, this thing that was so perfect and so much what he craved. Like when he was that little nerdy boy, like all he wanted was to be cool and to date the cool girl and whatever. Like it is that fantasy of what you think you want, and it might not necessarily be right for you. And I think when he's going through his personal journey, he's going to discover that. I think there's some middle of the line attractive girl that's got like the same interests as him. It's a little bit dorky, but also very attractive, and could kind of go either way. Kind of like a Sam, honestly. Not that I think him and Sam are compatible, but that attractive, but like isn't necessarily like the cool girl. I mean, when we first meet Sam, she is, but like has like similar hobbies to him and interests, and maybe she's a little bit nerdy, like something like that. I feel like is there he's going to be compatible with someone like that.
Oh, absolutely. And he's got a lot of like, he's damaged goods right now. He's got a lot of stuff to work out on his own before he can even think about like dating anybody.
No dating till college, mister.
Yeah. Keep your shirt on until college. What is it? I'll probably have to wear a t-shirt until college. Please don't tell them.
Yeah, literally. But I think like this is his season. This is his season to lose. Yeah. Like
I feel so bad for him because like he got, beat up kind of in season 1, beat up in season 2, finally gets a little bit of redemption in season 3, and then season 4, he's probably going to get his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think he needs to go through that. I think he's going to find some kind of personal triumph. Like in each season, I feel like we find someone that has personal triumph. Like, like Robbie and Miguel in season 1 both feel like they've had personal triumph, but we actually see that it's really only Robbie that's had this personal triumph. Sam
I think Robbie's gonna win. It's either gonna be Robbie or Sam that win the All Valley.
Yeah, well, that's not what this episode is all about, but we can discuss that later.
Yeah.
But each season we've seen different people have like triumphs, with the exception of season 2 when everybody lost. Everybody lost big time. Except for Kreese. He walked away from it. Which makes me hate him more. But Dimitri, I guess, had some success in season 2. But in season 3, you saw like Miguel had a huge personal growth. Sam had huge personal growth at the end of the season. And Hawk is now on his way, and I think season 4 will be his huge personal growth. And I think Robbie is also due for another triumph season. Has huge personal growth, or at least gets set up at the end of the season to have huge personal growth in season 5. Which hopefully we get to see. But
I definitely want to be seeing more of the backstory of Eli and Dimitri and how when they started to becoming friends. I want to see more of Eli's mom and what she thinks about everything, and I want to see like, is she a single mom? I'm rooting for her to be a single mom. And I think that's another reason why I latched onto Hawk, is just because I'm rooting for his character, but I'm also like, you asshole. So like he has this way of making you, and it's so. Candace Acola from the Vampire Diaries, the girl that plays Caroline Forbes, she does this as well. Like, she has this way of making you love and hate her at the same time. And I feel like Jacob is very the same way. And not just with Hawk, with any character he's played. Like, I first saw him when he played Little Henry in Marvin Marvin, when I was obsessed with Lucas Cruikshank. And even then, like, thinking back now, like watching that show, like constantly, like I hated Henry. He was so annoying, but he was so cute and adorable, and I loved him at the same time. So he with every character he plays, even with Joey, with Kirby, with everything that he does, he has this way of making you love his character and hate his character at the same time. It's so difficult for an actor to be able to do that. So Jacob, you are fucking brilliant, and I hate you, but I love you.
Well, I don't have the same experience with Jacob as an actor, but I really only had Cobra Kai to sample from, and I think sometime in my childhood I might have watched his Disney movie.
Yeah.
But I don't really have vivid memories of it, because I feel like that was past my prime on Disney. And it was like probably something I walked in on like my brother or sister watching and like sat down.
I didn't even have
a Disney movie.
Yeah.
So I don't really remember much. Like I didn't have any experience with him as an actor before this.
Well, I didn't even know. Like, when I first started watching, I mainly started watching Cobra Kai because Tanner Buchanan, and I loved him in The Fosters. So, and I was going to watch it when it was on YouTube, and I didn't, but I'm not afraid to admit that. It's fine. But I saw him, like, the first thing was the cafeteria scene when he like first looks up at Miguel and smiles, and I'm like looking, and I'm like, God, that kid looks familiar. I know him from somewhere. He's been in something, but I didn't have Disney Channel growing up, so I had never I'd heard of Kirby Buckets, but I didn't know that he was the one that did it. But then I looked him up on Instagram, and I followed him when he had like 400,000. And then I started Team Hawk about a month after watching Cobra Kai, because I felt like everybody hated his character, and I couldn't find any fan pages on just him alone. And
well, he wasn't very likable at the end of season 2, so
he was not. But I was like, oh, but I like him. I think he's great, and he's gonna have such a great character arc, and I'm so excited. But anywho, he hits 500,000 followers, and he posts like this thing of like his kind of like little acting journey. And the very first photo, I'll never forget it. I was scrolling through my phone, just like, na. And then all I see was like, oh, like I've got 500,000. And the first thing I see is the photo of Marvin. And I'm like from Marvin, like I see like Henry from Marvin. I was like I literally died. I was like, there is no way. And then I just like kind of rewatched everything that he did, and just kind of like saw his journey and the similarities between all of his characters. Anyway, he's incredible.
Well, I agree. I do think he's a great actor, and I obviously connected to the character, and it's, credit to the writing and the acting and just the entire process of all of it. So obviously Jacob had something to do with that, and truly made me see myself and the things that I went through within the character. So credit to the big three, the writers, to Jacob, for creating such a relatable character that people want to unpack and they want to understand. And that I feel like, despite us going through a lot of these issues that he has, like, we never truly unpacked answers to certain things. And there's this mystery to how this comes about that I feel like is very true to real life. Like, you don't know why you let other people influence you. you don't always have that answer of like, why did I let this person dictate what I did? Like, why did I care so much what this person thought? And you don't necessarily always know, and you don't always have the answer. And that's so true and so relatable. And just all of the emotions that he's experiencing. Obviously, the karate part for most people is like, that's the extra, like, dramatic TV portion of it. For me, it personally wasn't. For me, the dramatic TV portion of it is like, you know, the mohawk and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, like, it's so, and all of Cobra Kai is just so realistic and so true to life.
Yeah.
With a little bit of, you know, karate thrown in there for the action part. But the emotions that he's feeling and the journey that his character is taking at his age, like at the age of 16, is something that I feel like a lot of people can relate to. So
Yeah,
I encourage.
I mean, I wish that I would have had this show growing up, because I feel like I would have had more of like the connection to Hawk. Like I definitely do, because I was bullied for like pretty near my whole life, and it's caused me like a lot of social anxiety. So like I think anyone that's experiencing something like that in school, like Hawk is just a great character to look up to. But at the same time, you got to be careful if you're a young person in high school and you're looking up to Hawk. It's like, you know, don't beat anybody up. We're not encouraging that. You see what it does, and you see, like, you know, what happens if you really become this like dark person who has no mercy. And I think they do such a good job of showcasing like the bad things that can happen if you really give in. So
yeah, and to also just read between the lines a little bit. I mean, in episode 5 of season 1, when everybody's cheering for Miguel for beating up Kyler, clearly other people knew that this bullying was going on, and no one said anything. You know, when Counselor Blatt was making the announcement about Eli, everybody was looking at him and laughing. And it's like, so many of you knew this was going on. You could have been the one to report it instead of a parent, and it could have been way more impactful that way. And you could have said something to Kyler. Like, you could have stood up to somebody. So however you choose to do it, if you see someone that is being picked on, do something. Don't be a bystander. You know, invite them to sit with you. Tell a counselor. Tell them anonymously. Tell the person who's bullying them to back off. Like, whatever you decide to do something. That's better than doing nothing. And I think that's something that, if you read between the lines of Cobra Kai, is very important, and something that they're asking you to do, because you never want to let people get to that place where they go so dark because they're in that place where they're so easily manipulated.
And I think that kind of comes into play whenever we first get introduced to Eli and Dimitri, and Miguel is looking for a place to sit in the cafeteria. You know, no one gives him a friendly face other than Eli. Like, Dimitri doesn't even look up. Like, it's just literally just Eli who looks up at him. So yeah, like, invite the new kid to sit with you, because you never know, that might be the person who can help you become the best version of yourself. And really, Miguel kind of did that with Eli. And then when he got pushed off kicked off the balcony and was in the hospital, Hawk really lost sight of where he was really going.
Yeah, well, lots of questions to be answered in season 4. If you've been keeping up with the big 3 on Twitter and on Instagram, you see that something big is obviously coming. We are going to be getting some piece of news soon. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of Hawk's journey. And I just want to thank you one more time, Jess, for coming on here and really diving into the character. And
oh, for sure. Thank you for having me. It was like, I find you too, like, you have so much like influence. Like, you're not just like, oh, Jacob's so beautiful, he's so hot, I want him to be my husband. Like, you're you're like me, like you actually pay attention to the character and pay attention to the show and see like what's going on. Not to say that the other people don't, but you know, they're a little bit more into his looks than his actual acting. So
Yeah, well, you know, I'm not too particularly into any of the looks of any of the Cobra Kai cast. It's not really about that. It's never been about
right.
that for me. Obviously,
Amen.
I was a Karate Kid fan, and that is what made me watch Cobra Kai. So
Yeah.
that's just not what it's about for me. And I love really looking into these characters and exploring them. And this is the introduction to a series where I will be bringing people on to go into detailed analysis of specific characters that I feel like I have some insight to, but I also want answers to. And so bringing in people that can really do a deep dive with me, really discuss this and make it feel like a conversation. So, yeah, thank you again. And I look forward to doing the next one. So I will see everybody
If you
soon.
do one on Robbie, I'll be in that too.
I already have. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm really excited for Hawk in the future of Hawk. And thank you to Jacob Bertrand for playing such an insanely interesting character.